Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another great edition of my Grue Rume Show. For the Grue Rume Show today, we got a very cool guest. He is an actor and he does music too, and he stars in Young Rock as Bret The Hitman Hart. And I'm talking about Nicholas Bernardi. And my co-host today is my cousin Billy Rock, who's a huge Bret Hart fan, and here he is. Okay, Paul. Okay, welcome to Gru, and thank you so much, buddy, for being a guest on the show tonight.
Yeah, my pleasure, man. Thanks so much for having me.
Definitely, yeah. Well, the first thing before we start getting to Young Rock, and Billy's going to ask all the Bret Hart questions because since he's his number one fan. But
Good.
before we get to Young Rock and Bret, wanted to talk a little bit about your other stuff first. And I see you act, direct, and make songs, and you wrote a book too. So how did you get involved with all of this?
Yeah, I guess I was always just kind of a creative. I always had this artistic side to me, and I didn't really know. I don't think my parents knew what to do with it either because they're very like traditionalist. Like you can't be an artist. You have to like find a career and
Mhm.
stick to that career, and that's your income and that's your livelihood. So I kind of had like a foot in both worlds for the majority of my life. So I was always kind of this artistic kid and loved drawing and loved creating things. And I was like a hammy kid. I was the youngest of three siblings. So I always had to like entertain and joke around to get the attention I needed, you know? So, but at the same time, I still needed to like follow my parents' path, like find that stability. So they're like, okay, you like drawing, maybe you can be an architect because they can draw. and
Yeah.
I was like, all right, yeah, I'll go down that path. That's fine. But during that whole process, I was like, I don't like I did a couple internships, like I didn't
Mhm.
love it. I was always doing music on the side. Like the arts were important for my parents, like my mom especially. She wanted me to take piano lessons. Like the arts were to be like appreciated and respected, but like not pursued. That's not for you. But
Yeah.
but I don't know, there was this part of me that was like, yeah, I don't know, I kind of love it. I just want to keep doing it. So I always kind of kept doing it on the side and got into improv comedy and
Oh, wow.
yeah, so that's most of my background's mostly improv and sketch comedy.
Okay.
But I always kind of did music on the side. Like I was in a band in college. We never took ourselves too seriously, but we cared about just putting on ridiculous, like entertaining shows. So that was just like our shtick. And then I just kind of carried that with me. Now I do like solo music. It's kind of it straddles a line between like satirical and earnest, like kind of hip
Nice.
hop, kind of pop, kind of all over the place. It's just like
Nice.
eccentric performance art, really. Um, like some of it's close to heart, some of it's just
Mhm.
ridiculous. But yeah, so I always kind of like that's kind of where my music is at right now. And then as far as like all the other creative projects, the book thing that I co-wrote that book with my girlfriend.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Nice.
the satirical children's book. Yeah, it was just she we were at a party one day and she just like spit out the title of that book. She's like, some of these she was like concerned about what like some people who were trying to like pull their kids out of school, like what they might teach them at home. And she said, oh, they'll probably teach them QAnon A through Z. And I was like, that's hilarious. We should write that book. So that's what we wrote. It's basically like an alphabet book with some just like fun conspiracy theories that were thrown around over the last couple of years. So that's available for purchase on every major bookstore right now, online anyway.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
yeah, so that's where that came from. And then the creative stuff, like the film stuff. Yeah, I mean that's my girlfriend. We're like kind of we're both. She's also an actor and
Oh,
creative and an
nice.
improv background. So
Nice.
yeah, a lot of like the short films and like a lot of the, like weird indie goofy projects that we kind of like work together on a lot of those.
Oh, man, that's awesome. Nice.
Yeah.
And you you made songs, you said you wrote songs. Is there any song that means the most to you that you wrote?
Yeah, that's kind of a difficult question because a lot of them, even though some of them are like a little closer to heart than other ones, I don't know. I kind of put like, but I really enjoy like the wordsmithing and the crafting
Yeah.
of the lyrics and stuff. So a lot of it, uh, I really enjoy that process like equally for every songs. But there are some songs that are more about like like personal life or like breakups and stuff like that. So some of those songs, there's this one track called December, which was like one of the first like more leaning more towards serious songs that I wrote. Was about like all of a relationship. That one maybe I held like near and dear to my heart for a while, but honestly, like it's not even like one of my favorite songs. I did one of my nicknames growing up was Bernardi Gras, and my last name is Bernardi, so it was like a play on Mardi Gras. And so I always had this like funny idea of like this persona, this like Bernardi Gras, this like party guy persona.
Nice.
And so my LP album has a song called Bernardi Gras, and it's sort of like my homage to like a Lady Gaga dance track. So that's probably, I guess if I had to pick a favorite song on that LP project, it's probably that song. It's really long. It's like a 5-minute long song. It doesn't need to be that long. It's real fun.
Okay, you go. And when you got involved with doing television and film, what was the very first role you ever had?
Do you mean like first like bigger role, or like just any kind of on camera paid acting gig role?
Yeah, that, like any kind of paid acting on camera. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess like, so through my agent, my first like booking, on camera booking, was for a LaCroix spec commercial. There was this video production company in Chicago that had this idea, and they just wanted this like big husky guy to like jump off a diving board and like make a big splash and then like hold up a LaCroix can. So that was the commercial. So I was like a big husky guy that fit the part, and then like had long hair to like come out of the pool, like shake off the water. So that was my first like paid professional on camera role.
Sweet. Yeah. And you also went behind the lens too. You directed, and I see you did music for it too. The short film that you made.
Yeah. Well, that was the concept. Yeah, becoming super. The depends on which version of that, because we had developed. We made this, my girlfriend and I just like went out and shot this. We had this like funny idea for becoming super. It's like this just like average person who wants to be a superhero, and they don't know how to do it, and they don't really have any skills, and they like go to a thrift store to like pick out an outfit, and she does like a ton of like physical comedy bits for it, and they like show her training in like an alley with like whatever she finds in the alley. It's just like ridiculous. So we like made that project, and then there was this startup app. It's still around. It's called Rizzle. They were trying to compete with TikTok, and they caught wind of it. And they're like, "Well, you want to make like a series?" Like they paid me a couple $100. They're like, "Do you want to make a series of that?" So then I was like, "Okay." But Rizzle, I don't know, the format changed, and then it became like I was the character, and then it was like basically the same premise, but then I scored the music for that project as well. So I don't know, it's ridiculous. It's real funny. It exists on Rizzle. I think I put them up on YouTube too, but I don't know. I'll release them on Instagram or something. It's a funny project.
Okay, sweet. And Billy Rock, I know you got a bunch of Bret Hart, Young Rock stuff you want to ask. So
yeah, absolutely.
Where's yours?
All right. Well, let me do this the right way.
Lock and load, baby.
So how did you get hired to play Bret the Hitman Hart on Young Rock?
Yeah, honestly, maybe dumb luck. I don't know. I had auditioned for season 2 to play one of the wrestlers, and I didn't get it. But then they asked me to audition to play a different wrestler for season 2, and I was like, oh, they like me enough to ask me back. I auditioned again. I didn't get that one, and then I was like, all right, well, whatever. It is what it is. I'll move on. And I had like forgotten about it, and they shot season 2. The schedule shifted for season 3, so I think they moved it up. I think both season 2 and season 3 were both released in 2022. So that's how tight that turnaround was from season 2 to season 3. And so it wasn't really like on my radar. I was like, oh, that'd be nice if they like asked me to audition again this season. And then all of a sudden they're like, oh, here's your audition. You're auditioning for Bret the Hitman Hart this year. And I was like, oh, that's cool. That's awesome. That's insane. What a, like, this is like, as far as iconic wrestlers go, this was like bigger than the other 2 roles, maybe. I mean, and so I was like, okay, this is crazy. So I like watched a whole bunch of Bret Hitman Hart to like brush up on my Canadian accent and trying to like nail that sort of like, you know, against my brother Owen type thing, you know, and got my audition tape in. I didn't hear anything. I was like, all right, you know, they're gonna, I think that the turnaround time from like the audition tape going into shooting was only like a matter of a couple weeks. And at the time I was in a play playing a chubby baby. So I was like, just like, you know, eating a bunch of food because I had to like wear a diaper on stage and be this like chubby man baby. And I was like, yeah, I don't really need to be in shape for anything. And then I had like a week and a half notice, or maybe not even, maybe it was like a week's notice when I got the call and they're like, okay, you're gonna be Bret the Hitman Hart. I was like, oh God, I'm like really flabby right now. All right, let's see what happens. So I started working out like crazy and like dieting like crazy to see if I could show up and be the guy they needed. So yeah, the whole thing was super surreal, and it was like such an honor to like be asked to play such an like cultural icon. And Bret the Hitman Hart, like, one of the coolest wrestlers, and just like one of the coolest guys of all time, it seems.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I love when he comes out with the sunglasses and he does like his taunt and everything, and he gives the shades to the fans and all.
Yeah,
They're awesome.
yeah,
I love
it. Yeah, there's something I kind of I did like a deep dive on Bret because I was always kind of like a casual wrestling fan. Like I didn't watch like as much as like my friends or my brothers, and I knew who he was, but then I just was like, oh man, if I got it, like I knew he was like, I knew Bret Hart was like a huge deal, and I was like, okay, it's one thing if I get an acting job and I have to be myself, like who cares, whatever, that I can just be myself, but like to take on a role of such an icon, it's like I better make sure that I'm like doing justice to this character and to this person. So I like did a deep dive on Bret and like watched as much as I could and picked up his book and started reading that. And I was like, I want to like learn as much about this guy as I can. I mean, I'm only on screen for that first episode for like a second, so none of that work really shows. But yeah, I mean, like learning the depths of Bret Hart. I think even the title of his book is the full title is like Hitman: My World, or My Life in the Cartoon World of Wrestling. And I think that like reigns true to like the kind of guy he was, both as a person and as a wrestler. Like so many of these iconic wrestlers are almost like a caricature of a person, like your Hulk Hogan's and your Macho Man's. But Bret, I feel like more than any other wrestler, like played so much closer to his heart, like sort of like take on like a person as a person as opposed to like playing a character. I don't know, it was like a different like I just turn it back in my head a little bit from like playing it over the top to like playing a lot closer to myself, but still trying to get that like Bret Hart flair into it, you know?
Yeah, it's really amazing that he was all that, like inspiring and all that as a human being, as opposed to a wrestler too at the same time, and transforming that into everything in one.
Yeah, I feel like even like like you're saying, when you come out and like give his glasses to a kid, like I think like he always wore, like the fans were always about, like he was just like so full of love. I know he was, you know, he always had like Hearts, you know, the Hart Foundation, but I feel like he lived up to that name, right? Like I feel like he always like led forward with like love and compassion and passion too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like he really did. And did you watch like any Bret Hart matches and promos to prepare for the role?
I did, yeah. I went and watched a bunch of old matches, and I felt coming into this role like I was at a disadvantage because I didn't have any like professional wrestling training. Like I said, I have like an improv and sketch background. Like I was an athlete, I played football, basketball and I played like rugby in my adult life, but like, you know, wrestling is like so technical, and it's such a skill set that you need to like hone to be good at. And I was like, oh man, I can't be the best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be. I don't have any wrestling experience. So yeah, I went and like watched a lot of his old matches, and specifically the one the match he had with The Rock back when he was Rocky Maivia. I think it was for Raw's War, and I was like looking, because the show is not like a complete reenactment of all these matches, but I was like, oh cool, what might they pull from this match so that I can like get it in my head and be ready. They ultimately didn't, you know, do, and they didn't reenact much from that match. There was a moment though where they were like, when we were kind of planning what we were going to do for like our quick wrestling sequence, and I was like, well, you know, in this video, there's a moment where he like brings The Rock over the ropes and he like drags his face against the ropes, and they're like, oh yeah, let's use that. So they ended up like putting that in the show, and that ultimately became, we did like a whole wrestling sequence, but they ultimately just trimmed the scene to just me like whispering a line into his ear and then just dragging him across the ropes.
Oh my God, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Like, and what are some Bret Hart matches do you like?
Oh, that I went and looked. Yeah. So I mean, I think the Stone Cold Bret Hart match from WrestleMania, you know, that like iconic Stone Cold like bloody face match.
Yeah,
I feel like that's kind of you know, and I was talking to Luke, was actually, he's like, you know, Bret Hart like put Stone Cold on the map, and I don't know the wrestling history like all the rest of these guys, but he's like, yeah, you gotta go watch that match. And I was like, yeah, that's. So I went back and I like watched the entirety of that match. It's like, wow, this is like insane. But yeah, I think that match was probably one of his most impressive.
Oh, definitely.
nice. Yeah. Was it cool to put on the Bret Hart sunglasses and his pink and black outfit?
Yeah, honestly, that was like unreal. I didn't even know, like I like expected there to be the sunglasses, but when we did like wardrobe fitting that day, there was no sunglasses to be found, and they finally gave me like the final wardrobe, and there was no sunglasses to be found, and I'm like, all right, I guess I'm just not gonna have the sunglasses. And then for the locker room scene where I'm giving them the drawing I drew, I'm like standing there, they give me the prop for the drawing, I'm like, oh, this is a cool drawing, let's go. And they're like about to call action, and all of a sudden someone from the props department comes out with this bin of sunglasses, and I was like, oh my God, I get to wear the glasses. So they just like threw them on my head right before they called action. So I only had them on for like 2 seconds, but I was like, oh, what an honor to like wear these. And then they were done shooting and they took them off, and I never saw them again.
Did you get to keep any of it, like the outfit, sunglasses?
No, it's all still with wardrobe. There was a big part. It was hard to leave my trailer at the end of the day and be like, should I keep any of it? But I did the right thing and I left it all behind.
How was it like working with the cast and the actor playing The Rock?
Yeah, Uli is like extremely nice guy. Like I couldn't think of like a better person to take on that role. He's just like all smiles all the time, like real cheery. And there's when you're like the star of the series, like he and Joseph Lee Anderson, I met both of those guys, but their schedules are like crazy. You know, they're in like every scene and they work all day. So they're kind of like corralled on their own because they have like a completely different schedule than the rest of the cast. So I mostly hung out with like the guest star wrestlers, and those guys were like unbelievable. Like Luke, who I was talking about, he'd been on the previous season and was back this season. So he already like kind of knew everyone and knew the ropes. So he was like real welcoming. He's like, yeah, man, come on out. We'll go out with like Chavo Guerrero Jr. We're gonna go get beers or whatever. And And then Sam, who plays the Mankind actor, Sam is the actor who plays Mankind. Like, he's a super nice guy. He's an actor out of Atlanta. So like the three of us bonded, and then I overlapped, even though my character's not in the same timeline as the Andre the Giant actor,
Yeah.
and the Macho Man actor. Those guys were there the second time I went down, and so we like all went out to dinner and like had some drinks together. So like all of those guys, they were like the nicest, like warmest people. They were real fun to hang out with. So it was a blast working on that show. And because they fly you in, the first two seasons they filmed in Queensland, Australia, so they were in like a COVID bubble. So I think they all kind of like formed this sort of familial bond. And then so now this season, you know, people were just like flying back and forth. They shot in Memphis this season, so people were just kind of like flying back and forth. And I just kind of like got lucky that they were already like real warm and nice with each other, and then they kind of just like welcomed me in for the time I was down there. So it was great working with them.
Oh, that's awesome, man.
Yeah.
And what scene did you have most fun doing?
Which scene?
Yeah.
So the first episode, the first scene that we shot was the scene that I was talking about with the glasses and the fart drawing.
Okay.
So that was like my first time on set in front of the camera with everyone, and it was a fart joke, so I loved that. And so that was fun, just to like deadpan deliver a fart joke and then just like wait for cut, and then just to hear the entire crew like cracking up, and I was like, all right, cool, I know that. And then Nanachka, who's the show creator and director of the first episode, she was just like throwing out lines to like improv with, and because I have an improv background, I was like, oh, perfect, like she's gonna give me some freedom to play here. So I like threw on a couple like funny tags at the end, and those got big laughs too. And then ultimately they didn't use any of that. But it was like fun to like feel that support of like, you know, she has like a comedy background. She created other comedy shows, so it was like nice to have her kind of feed into that. Like, yeah, you know, like give a few options here, that'll be funny. So that was fun. And then, but probably like the most like thrilling scene to shoot was the like wrestling sequence with Uli, because it's in a real stadium, and they bring in extras to fill up seats, and it feels we did the first take, and they had the audience be like quiet for that, and so that was
wow.
that was like weird to like to be in a completely quiet stadium for like a fight sequence. But then Uli like turned to the director and like he's like, hey, you guys mind if we just like get the crowd to go crazy? And I was like, oh yeah, that'd be cool. And so they just started going nuts. And then all of a sudden you're just like, oh man, you just like the adrenaline's pumping. You're like a real professional wrestler. Like this whole stadium's going nuts. Like the lights are on us. Like this is the real deal. We're doing this, baby. So that was like an adrenaline rush to shoot that scene. And then ultimately they just like kept like a second of it, because that's just how it goes. You know, they got to trim these episodes to like 20 minutes, so things just end up on the cutting floor. But that was a lot of fun to shoot.
Oh, that's awesome, man. So did Bret Hart ever contact you about like playing him?
No. No, he didn't. Because I had talked to, and Chavo Guerrero Jr., who's the wrestling coordinator on the show, I think he had like just got finished like working with Bret too.
Oh,
because Chavo did there's a show on Vice right now called Tales from the Territories, and it's all stories from like all these different wrestling territories. So I think there's like the Stampede Wrestling one and Chavo was like a co-executive producer on it. So I think he was like working with all these guys. So if I would have pushed hard, maybe I could have, but I don't know. I mean, it feels weird to be like, hey, I'm playing you on TV for a couple minutes. You want to be buddies? So if I'm sure if he wants to reach out, I'll more than happily take the call, but I'm not gonna press for him to bother me or to bother him.
So did you get to meet The Rock?
No, I didn't. In fact, I think even the people working on the show for the last, couple seasons, nobody, I don't think anyone met The Rock until
Oh, wow.
this year because they were shooting in a COVID bubble. I think Uli had said there was, they saw each other on like Skype calls, like production calls, but because everyone was like isolated, like, because all of his scenes in the show, the Rock scenes, all happened with like Randall Park or like very few actors that he's actually working with, and then everything else kind of takes place in like a flashback kind of reenactment of his life. So for the most part, you just kind of know and hang out with the people who are in your timeline. But there were like funny moments where Brian, who's one of these executive producers, who he also used to write for WWE, and he's like buddies with The Rock. Yeah, so he would like come and talk to us, and then he'd like take our picture. He's like, "I'm sending this to DJ." So there was like the one moment where I was like in my Hitman gear, and Luke was there in his Stone Cold gear, and Uli came out, and they're like, "I guys get together. We're gonna send this to DJ." So he like sent a picture of us to The Rock. I was like, "Oh, that's weird. They're actually giving texted a picture of me that he has to look at." All right, cool.
Oh man, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So what'd you think of Bart Simpson playing the role or like him wearing the sunglasses?
Are you talking about the episode? Well, there was an episode where Bret Hart voiced like a loose version of himself. Is that?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah. I remember that episode. I looked it up because it was weird. They told him not to use his voice in that episode. So it's Bret Hart voicing a character that looks exactly like him, but he's doing like this like like kind of raspy old. It doesn't sound like Bret Hart, and it's real weird to like go back. You can go look that clip up again. You're like, it's weird that they told him not to use his voice. And then,
I know that's a little odd. Yeah.
And then they used his likeness.
Oh man. But yeah, like from playing like video games like Royal Rumble and Super Nintendo, and like playing like games from that time on, it inspired me. Bret Hart was like that mean guy that caught my eye the whole time. I'm like, I love this guy, Bret, with the sunglasses. And at first I was like, who is this guy with the pink shades and all that? And then as I found out who he was, I'm like, wow. And then he grew on to me ever since then.
Yeah. I think that's like everyone's kind of story with Bret Hart. I think that like kind of lines up with his wrestling career, because I think when he kind of became the guy for WWF at the time, like they were going through all kinds of like controversies with steroids and like behavior. And Bret in here was like this guy who was like this clean cut, strong technical wrestler who could like, carry the organization for a while. So he was kind of this peripheral, maybe mid upper card guy. And then all of a sudden they needed like some responsible adult to like carry the organization. So they're like, all right, Bret, you're the man. So then he just became like everyone's favorite wrestler.
Yeah, man, it was really like inspiring just to see him like go out in that ring and perform the way he performs. And it was awesome. It was amazing. I'm so happy that he beat Vince McMahon and put him in sharpshooter at WrestleMania. I'm so happy about that one.
Yeah. There's so many like behind the scenes like stories and stuff that all that's nice to see some of that like retribution. And I think he suffered a lot of like personal pain and loss throughout his life and his career. And, he's been pretty public with a lot of that, so it's nice to see any of those moments where he can make amends, whether it's be with like Vince McMahon or Shawn Michaels or whatever, live through those moments and get to the other side of them.
Yeah. Now, did you ever go to like the wrestling matches where you actually seen him live in person, like where you went to go watch him?
No, he had just passed through Chicago, which is where I'm based out of, like a few weeks after I like went down to play him, and I think it was like Homewood, Illinois, which is a suburb of Chicago, and I thought about like going to that match because he was like, you know, it's his own promo or whatever. He's I think it was for charity or something.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that'd be fun to like go check it out and see him live. But I don't know. I ended up not going. It felt weird to like, what was I gonna do there? Just enjoy it from afar or like hang around and be a fanboy and be like, hey, I play you on TV.
Right, exactly.
I don't know. So I just kind of just let it pass by. And if I ever cross paths with them, great. But I'm not gonna force it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I always ask guests this when I have them on the show because as you can see, I'm a big horror fan, so my Chucky doll. And are there any horror movies that you like to watch?
Yeah. My girlfriend and I are like super into horror. She loves horror movies, so
Sweet.
that's like our usually in our regular rotation is whatever like the newest horror movie that's out, and she loves B horror too. So we watch a lot.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So we watch a lot of that, but I think if like you're asking like my favorite all time, I think it falls in a horror category, but 28 Days Later, I think.
Oh yeah.
Zombie movie.
Yeah.
I just
Oh,
feel
that was awesome.
yeah, I just feel like there's so many layers to that movie that make it just like overall just a great film as well as a good horror film.
That was a really good horror film, and you know, of course, all the classics like Halloween and A Nightmare on Elm Street, Chucky, and
Yeah.
did you get to see Halloween Ends?
Oh no, that's the one that just came out, right? The Jamie Lee
Yeah,
Curtis.
don't bother seeing it.
No.
Yeah, it was very disappointing.
Well, I'd seen the previous one that just came out when Jamie Lee Curtis like had just come back.
Mm-hmm.
And I was pretty sure that movie ended with her being like, "This ends now," and then like burning down a house. And then so now this, I guess it didn't end because now Halloween ends. I don't know.
Well, yeah, it was just I being a horror fan, that was not the way to end it, and it was just bad. It was a bad movie.
Yeah. Well, they got to keep mining that IP for money, you know.
That's true.
Yeah.
And what about songs? Like, what kind of songs do you like listening to? What's on your playlist?
Yeah, so I grew up listening to a lot of just like alternative rock. Then my brother got me turned on to like classic rock. So those were like my genres growing up. But then I got into more like hip hop, and then graduated more maybe like into synth pop, and then I had a friend like turned me on to country. So I'm kind of open to anything as long as it's good. And even when I'm like writing my own music, it's hard to like throw a genre label on it because it's kind of all over the place. It's kind of pop, it's kind of rap, it's kind of I don't know. But I kind of like everything. Like if I just want to relax, I throw on like a Pandora station, like a hipster, some kind of hipster music, you know, just in the background, play like indie pop, indie folk, something like that.
Okay. And I know you do your own music and stuff, but if you were at a karaoke bar, what would be your song?
Oh yeah, no, this I know. I do a fantastic rendition of Enrique Iglesias' "Hero."
Wow. Okay.
Again, it's like a performance piece. It's very theatrical. So I get a lot of people taking their cell phones out to record me when I do it because it's so ridiculous.
Sweet.
Wow, that's amazing, man.
And it looks like you stay in good shape. So is there any junk food do you like to eat? A cheat food?
Yeah, honestly, any kind of like sweets. I mean, I probably the most dangerous thing is when I get like savory carbs in front of me. So I'll just like mindlessly plow through any, processed savory like pasta. Like if there's a bowl of pasta, you can put like 2 pounds of pasta and I'll finish it all. So I basically need to like keep carbs away from me, because before I was doing more performance stuff full time, I was in the corporate world.
Yeah.
And I'm doing architecture, and there's just like muffins and bagels and deli like constantly just available for you. And I got real like heavy at one point, and then I finally like left the corporate world, like, all right, time to reel all this in. I gotta get back in shape. So I had to like relearn how to eat and like focus more on the macros. And now I just try to like maintain and be in just good enough shape so maybe I can fake it and pretend that I'm like as fit as Bret Hart on TV, but that's probably not the case,
And is there anything coming up next for you? Like anything you want to plug?
I guess anything that I want to plug. Well, I can plug my novelty rock company, my Zen Rocks. It's
There you go.
Wow.
It's a business I started during the pandemic. It's in the vein of like pet rock. It's ridiculous. We're sold out right now from the holiday rush, but we'll get back in stock soon. Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's like three certified stackable rocks, and it comes with like a tongue-in-cheek Zen guide. It's it's like a gag gift that you'd like, bring to like a white elephant or give to an uncle you're lukewarm about or something,
Oh, wow. Nice. Do you have a website on it that you sell it on? Like when you do stock them again?
Yeah, it's myzenrocks.com.
Okay.
But they're also available on Amazon. Well, when they're back in stock anyway. And then, of course, I'll plug QAnon A through Z, my baby's first conspiracy theories, educational read for everyone. And then what else? I think I brought props to your interview.
No, this is awesome. I love it.
This isn't a plug, but this is an Easter egg wink to any WWE fans. So for the to play, my hair was real long before I went down to production, so they cut like 13 inches.
Wow.
And I just let it go wild. So I ended up keeping that hair and donating it. So I donated it to children with hair loss, but then there's a place on the form to where you can donate it on behalf of someone, and I donated on behalf of the Heart Foundation.
Oh
my God, that's awesome.
Oh my God.
So there's a nod to the WWF fanboys out there.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. And where can fans follow you at?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram. Bernardi Grue is my main page. I also have a page for my Zen Rocks. You can follow my Zen Rocks. I got a page for the Q book. I can't remember that one. That might be like Q for Kids book or something. Okay. It's very hard to advertise for a QAnon product because you can't type QAnon without being shadow banned. So whatever. Then yeah, I mean, my music's on Spotify. All of my stuff's released under my full name, Nicholas Bernardi. So whatever, I'm out there. I'm easy to find.
Sweet. And Billy, you got any final question you want to ask him?
Well, you are the best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be.
Billy, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And it was a pleasure and honor to meet you. It really was.
Yeah, you too, man. Likewise.
Thank you, man.
Thank you so much for taking time out of your night and doing the show. And me and Billy appreciate it. And you were awesome as Bret on Young Rock. And I'm looking forward to seeing more stuff.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Yes. And congrats to you on the show, man. This is this is one of the 300th something episodes.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. I think it's like up to like 365 or something like that already. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good for you. Honestly, like from one creative to another, like it's so hard to like get motivated sometimes to make something and then to like stick with it. So to have that many episodes under your belt, like, you should be proud of that, man.
Thank you, buddy. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, man. All right. Well, I don't want to hold you up anymore. So again, thanks for doing this and happy 2023.
Happy 2023. Go get it.
Yeah,
Definitely.
the pink and black attack.
Yeah. I wore some pink to
I
honor
see that.
Love
Yes.
it.
And drink loud brew cold brew coffee. I'm plugging
Okay.
that.
Oh, love it.
All right. Well, definitely have a good night, buddy.
All right, you too.
Have a good one.
Thank you.
Yeah.